On behalf of NowSecure, I'd like to welcome everyone here to our Connect 2020 virtual event. As with many, we had hoped to have an in-person spring event here in the DC area, much as we have had in prior years, but the pandemic kind of got in the way. So this year we rescheduled it as a virtual event. So now we've got a power-packed 90 minutes, followed by some great birds of a feather sessions. And so we're trying to hit you with the best material in the shortest amount of time and trying to make this as interactive as possible for everyone who is joining us today. We're pleased to have you join us. And our goal here is to have an interactive session and a high value session as part of Connect 2020. Next slide, please. So with that, I'd like to get started on our agenda for today. So our first set of sessions, our general sessions, will run from 11 until 12:30. So we'll begin with Alan Snyder, our CEO, with his vision for mobile in 2021 and beyond, followed by Tobias and David, our SVP of Product and CTO, who are tag teaming on a NowSecure Innovations section. And then finally, we'll have a customer panel with guests joining us from SCB and BitSight as part of an open conversation. After a short break, we're going to move into Birds of a Feather sessions from 12:40 to 1:30. And this is really a great opportunity for you to connect with your peers. So there'll be a facilitator in the room, one of the NowSecure leaders in each of these areas around platform, workstation, DevSecOps, and open source. And this is where you can connect in an open Zoom fashion to chat, interact, ask questions, share answers, and otherwise hang out with like-minded folks on any of those four topics. We will be sharing links to that at the end of this session. Next slide, please. And so as part of this, we have an open community, moderated community activity. So to ask any presenter or myself as moderator, I'll be moderating throughout today, you can use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Simply ask a question there, and either I'll answer it or I'll ask a panelist or one of our presenters to answer it. You can also use the open chat capability. So Zoom chat has been opened so all of our guests can chat with each other. So it's a Zoom webinar, so we can't see everybody's face, but we're able to use the Zoom chat, and that way people can interact with each other. If you see somebody you're interested in chatting to, go ahead and do a DM to them, or you can ask an open question and some of the community can answer, as well as Chris Samaglia from the NowSecure team will also be moderating. So if you have a direct question, you can also just address Chris, either to the group or individually, and Chris will answer your questions as well. And so we will be recording this session. The recording will be made available in replay to everyone afterwards. We will not be recording the Birds of a Feather, so we'll only be recording the general sessions. So we encourage you to participate, listen along, use the Q&A to ask me, to ask the presenter questions, use the chat to ask each other and chat with each other. And here we go. I'd like to pass it along to Alan Snyder in the next slide for our opening keynote on mobile in 2021 and beyond. Alan, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Brian. So let me dive right in because I think there's a lot of interesting things to go through. So I'm going to start with welcoming everybody to Connect 2020. We're really excited that you're here, that you've taken the time to learn more and listen to NowSecure. We appreciate the trust that you put in us to be a leader and to work with you as a partner. So that's actually really important to us. It's something that we strive to do going forward. And sometimes, we know that there's things that we can always improve upon and do better. We are eager to get your feedback. We're eager to listen. So we look at this as not just the opportunity for us to kind of tell you where we see things going, but really we very much want and value your feedback on what have we missed? What other things would you rather see us refine? How else can we help you? What are the things that we can do to kind of move a little bit faster and help you operate a bit more effectively? So what I like to do in this is to go a little bit more into kind of what we see happening in the market. So digital transformation and the growth of mobile apps was already in full swing prior to COVID-19. But now with COVID-19, it's accelerating significantly faster, right? You've seen a lot of the press and media reports from other various companies, whether it be the earning reports. If you look at Chipotle and, while the restaurant industry is down, but you see that they did substantially well based on the growth of their mobile app. and sales. Well, we're seeing that within our customer base as well. I'll give you one, what I consider to be a pro tip. Next time you need to get budget approved, what you need to do is go look at your application traffic, break it into two groups, web endpoint, mobile app endpoint. I feel very confident that what you'll find is what we see in the industry across our customers, but also from the industry rating services, be it ComScore or Adobe Analytics, is more than 60% of that app traffic is now mobile. And then go look at your security spend. I suspect that what you'll find is it's not 60% in that split. That's my recommendation when you look at it, when it comes time for budget and folks say, why should we do more? It's important, follow the traffic. That's why you should do more. Now, let me give you a little bit of background in terms of what we've been up to. We have not been sitting still at all this year. We have been working extraordinarily hard. We've grown the team. We have viewed this time as one where we can accelerate our product development. We've invested very, very heavily. So Tobias, who you'll hear from later, joined us at the beginning of this year. We've built out a very robust product management team, but we've also invested very heavily in research and engineering. And really, the goal is, how can we deliver higher quality software to you faster? I would hope that what folks have seen is that our support of the various OSs and our ability to move product to market much more quickly and much more effectively has actually been happening. I do know we have heard from some folks about we might be releasing some software a bit too fast. So, we're always open to the feedback. We like it because we want to make sure that we're working with you to deliver on what we've promised and what we've committed to you as a customer. We've made huge improvements in our infrastructure. This is going to result in better throughput, reliability, resiliency, but most importantly, scale. Our ability to scale now is just substantial. We have the ability to grow and make it repeatable. Extremely pleased in terms of what we've done with our infrastructure improvements and our ability to scale. And then also we've kind of really focused on your security and making sure the way we're treating and handling the data that you trust us with is done in a effective and reliable way. It's done in a secure way. And so we work through to get their SOC 2 certification and to make sure that we are consistently implementing those processes to protect the data. And what we really want to do is we want to function as the trusted advisor. Our view is, our goal is to kind of be that place where you can turn with what's happening in the industry. How do I educate my teams on the importance of mobile app security? What's new? So you see, whether it be the training courses that we've put out there for free for folks to take advantage of or to share with the developers, the tech talks, the blog posts, there's lots of things that we're doing to try and make sure that you have one place to come to, one place to turn to for that trusted advisor of all things related to mobile apps and security and privacy. Now, I like to, sometimes I just candidly say I like to be a little controversial at times because I think it brings up a lot of good thinking, and it also brings up some interesting discussions. So I believe that there is a bit of an interesting challenge around DevSecOps and what that means organizationally, and then what that means for the future of DevSecOps and how you deliver on the DevSecOps promise. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with Conway's Law, but Conway's Law basically says that technology systems will reflect the organization that built it. So if I have development, ops, and security as separate teams, I will end up with separate subsystems for development, ops, and security. So this was kind of the premise behind some of the things in terms of putting dev and ops together, is that if I change, in order to change that outcome, I need to change the way the communication flow and the organization structure works. And by eliminating barriers, I will actually be able to move more quickly. So when you think about it and you say DevSecOps, following that theory, well, where does that leave security, right? So how many companies are actually going to go ahead and take their security team and combine it with the DevOps team? My suspicion is not a lot. right? I mean, I think some will. Thus, the paradox is we want the benefits of DevSecOps, but organizationally, it's actually going to be quite hard to go do. And so to me, this creates an interesting challenge for everyone, and NowSecure has also a role to play in how do we address this challenge? Because to me, that leads to a really interesting discussion around, well, what is the role of security if it is unlikely that I'm going to take my security team and combine it with the DevOps team, but I still want that flow and I still want that communication structure and I still want to be able to move faster and I still want to build security in. Well, how do I do that, right? So what happens? And so when we look at it, what we think happens is that security becomes more of upfront advisory and training. We already see this occurring in the marketplace, but also one of policy and standards definition. So how do I know if something is risk, high, medium, or low? How do I determine what standard to apply so I know, have I met my minimum bar to this thing to go into production and for it to be used for the risk designation that I've given? And this is something that we see lots and lots of our customers and security teams working through to go figure this out. We've built a risk framework, all sorts of tools to kind of help in that. And I think the security team will still be doing things like incident response, the deep dive testing. But when you look at the DevOps side, if I get security by design and I get security built in and I've got automation working, which is what we really want, is that continuous automated security process for in the development piece and in the build. That also means that really the DevOps team and the development group, they're doing prioritization of issues. They're doing remediation of the issues. They're doing the verification of those issues. And so it becomes one where the two teams really need to have very strong communication. They need to have a common understanding of the truth, and they need to have clear boundaries in terms of, well, what's my standard? How do I know? How do I tell, right? It's almost a trust but verify. So we view this as an opportunity for NowSecure and our software to really be that bridge and to make it such that it can work extraordinarily effectively. So security can lay out and say, here's the policy and the standards that we want applied, that DevOps can automatically implement them on a continuous basis in the development process. And both groups know that they are secure and compliant on an ongoing basis continually. And what's also important is then it's management by exception. Tell me when something has violated this. And in many cases, it's, well, tell the right person, because pre-production, who do I want to tell? I want to tell the DevOps team because we're going to fix it. And ideally, we're going to fix it very early before that version ever sees the light of day and goes into production. And so it was a minor issue that was addressed. It was, identified and addressed very early in the process before it moves forward. We see this as a huge opportunity to kind of make that easier. And what we also view is there's a real opportunity to do this in a way that it becomes audit ready and it becomes something that is provable to other parts of the organization and to outside regulators. We think this will also greatly simplify and ease the burden on our DevOps and our security users, is that they can readily say, I tested this thing 42 trillion times and I tested it to these standards and I can prove that it passed and that it was secure. So when you look at what we're doing, right, we want to be that bridge. We want to provide the security teams those capabilities I just talked about. We want to provide the DevOps teams those capabilities, and we want to do it in a way that both have the tools that are appropriate to what they're trying to do and can function together where appropriate. But in some cases, sometimes, if I'm doing the development piece, security may not want to see every defect prior to production. What they may just want to know that when it went to production, it met my minimum bar and it was fine. And in production, it remains that way and there's no issues or concerns. So that's how we plan to go do this and to kind of help resolve that DevSecOps paradox that's an organizational issue, but we believe that good software can help bridge that gap and make it significantly easier to deliver on the promise of DevSecOps. which leads me to the next piece, standards. When we look at it, let's take a step back, right? Why do security testing at all? What's the point, right? We can never get to perfect, right? We can't make it perfectly secure or perfectly private. So why bother, right? Maybe just go buy a huge cyber insurance policy and just let it be. Well, the reality is the goal is not perfection, right? Because we know that you cannot get to perfect security, right? There's too many moving pieces. There's too many things that are unknown. If it's electronic and has an attack surface, you're never going to get to perfect. At least I've yet to see anyone that will claim that it is perfectly secure. So what we're really trying to get to is what is an acceptable level of risk for this item, for my business. What is that acceptable level of risk? And then you get into the interesting thing of, okay, how do I know that I've achieved it? And then how do I maintain it in a constantly changing world, right? With constantly changing code and infrastructure and lots of moving pieces. And our view is that only through standards, right? You need to have some, that's the whole point of why I have a standard, right? Is how do I know that I've reached some minimal level of something that is acceptable for me to put into production and to secure, and then have something that will also evolve over time. And right now, what we see in the market, whether it be on a pen test from a vendor, whether it be in a lot of the software that does security testing, you're really in the mode of the vendor saying, trust us, we tested it. And here's our report, but there's a lot that you don't know about. Well, how'd you test it? What'd you look for? The different things. And those organizations that have really strong and deep subject matter expertise, well, they've got the ability to understand, yes, you did test it and you tested it the way we wanted it, and you tested it to this level. That was good for us. But many organizations don't have that. They don't have the subject matter expertise. They don't have the time to go through and do that. So they're very dependent on the vendor. We believe that standards are the best way to kind of move this discussion forward. And so that we can say to somebody and that they can be confident that we tested these things in this way. It's independent of NowSecure. It can be verified. It can be validated. And we think that you get to something where you can predictably and reliably manage risk by defining that acceptable level of risk and defining acceptable level of risk in the context of industry standards. Now, we recognize that those industry standards will probably also get to be industry use cases as well, because it's not just general risk from an industry standard, but there's going to be lots and lots of different regulatory issues, be it privacy, be it healthcare, be it financial services, where there's specific items that need to be addressed. And this also is where standards can help. Because I recall, I had a discussion, it was probably a month ago, with one of our financial services customers. And I was asking, what is the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge was actually not building secure apps. It was not doing the testing and making sure the apps was secure. Their biggest challenge was making sure that the regulators in all of the different jurisdictions that they operated understood that their apps were indeed secure and kept secure. That was a huge pain point. Well, we're listening to that. We understand that that is a big challenge for many of our customers and a huge drain on resources and time. And so we think that if we can get standards-based testing and give you artifacts and things to prove to the regulators and to the internal compliance groups that you've got this covered, and you can show them and prove that it's covered, that will make your lives easier. So we want to be the market leader on standards-based testing, right? You can see we've already done a good bit around NIAP in terms of what we've done, the most current version, and delivering that. That was an enormous amount of work. We're not done. There's lots of other things. I think everybody knows that we're very active in OWASP. It's exceptional in terms of what's being done there by the OWASP group and team around mobile. We want to continue to participate and get involved to help the standards evolve. But we also want to make sure that we get that into our software to make it easy for you to pick and choose standards, right? Because not everybody's going to pick and choose the same standards or how you do them or how you apply them to an app. There's going to be different risk levels. And we want to make it easy for you to continuously prove that you are indeed compliant. All right. So the last thing I'll do, and I've got a few minutes on this before I wrap up, is we're seeing another interesting trend in the market, and that is mobile connected to IoT devices. And what we find is this is a pretty interesting one, and that is when you really look at it, what we've seen the evolution is at first with IoT, everybody tested the IoT device and the firmware on the device and the element. And then there was a realization of, whoa, wait a minute, this mobile app connects to the IoT device and I can control the IoT device with the mobile app. So maybe I also need to do some testing of the app. And we're seeing more and more folks realizing that now they need to test the mobile app in conjunction with the IoT device. And that means physically interacting with the IoT device. And so our workstation product works exceptionally well. This is a use case where we look at it and say, we've got great opportunity to say you can use platform for continuous automated testing of the mobile app while it's being developed. You can then do your integration test between the mobile app and the IoT element using workstation where a human in the loop is required because you may need to physically push a button or perform an action on the IoT device that just cannot be done with pure automation. And so our view is we look at that and say that is a really interesting use case. We see it growing. We see lots of our customers who are many who are on today using that. So we are investing in that as well because we view that as we want to be able to cover all mobile, whether it's the apps you build, whether it's the apps you use, whether it's apps that are connected to IoT. We want to cover all mobile for your enterprise. And with that, I thank everybody for your time. It has been a pleasure. I have included my email. We are always looking forward to comments and feedback from folks. So please don't hesitate to reach out. If you disagree or think we're missing a point, I'm really eager to hear what you have to say. So thank you.
Okay, Alan, we have one or two questions here before your time is up and we move over to the product innovation section. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you those questions. I'll remind people in the audience, you can use your Q&A tab to ask a question, and then I will moderate those questions and ask them of our presenters.
Great.
So the first question is about standards. You talked about OWASP, and you mentioned OWASP as standards. Can you talk more about what NowSecure is doing with the MSTG, and what NowSecure is doing with API and the API security top 10?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at both of those very, very aggressively and implementing. I mean, we use that to help guide our roadmap. I think David and Tobias can talk about it a little bit more, but what you can rest assured is we are actually looking at and using those as guides in terms of prioritization of the findings and the tests we need to do and how much coverage we can get. And so we are looking at the MSTG and also MASVS in terms of implementing those standards as well. What we're working on now is getting the tests that we have it in our coverage that we know that, okay, we can cover off on it. And then what we'll be looking at in the future is making it easier for you to, in essence, apply those standards to say, I want 6 out of the OS top 10. I want the OS top 10 plus NIAP. I want, right, so you can pick and choose the different standards, either in whole or in part, that are appropriate for your risk profile, and then have that be part of the testing process. But that's futures. Just want to be clear, right? We don't have that in the product today, but we recognize we think you're going to need it. We think you're going to want it. And so we are looking at how we're going to go deliver that.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking through the questions here. I have a second question about risk. Someone's asking about, do we have a risk management framework or other tools to help organizations deal with organizing their risk around mobile?
Yeah, great question. So we have a very simple 3 to 4 page risk framework. What we saw happening was a lot of customers weren't sure where to start when talking at the big picture of mobile risk of just how to get themselves organized. So it's a very simple 3 or 4 page, really white paper document. It's not unique to NowSecure technology. It's really, here's best practices for walking through to understand first, what do I have? How do I organize it into different risk categories? And then how do I apply and build, in essence, a testing standard that I want to apply to my different risk categories? So we help people walk through and think through the issues of, Do I want it automated tested and then manual pen tested once, twice a year? To what standard do I want it tested, right? The frequency, the depth, the coverage. There's lots of dimensions that go into defining a good, secure testing program. And so we've tried to lay all that out to make it very easy for someone to go and do and implement. And we've done it in a way that it's, well, obviously, we want everybody to use NowSecure products and tools, and we think we've built the best products and tools to do it. But we've also done it in a way that really is generic for the market so that, you know, it will fit and be relevant to your organization.
All right, very good. So thank you for answering that question. We do have a document we can provide you that's a risk framework tool. So please feel free to contact any NowSecure representative. It's basically a Word document framework you can use to fill in and start your way down your path and your journey. And so with that, Alan, if you want to stop sharing, we're going to go ahead and transition a little early to the product guys so we get more product time. And so while Alan stops sharing, we will ask David Weinstein to please start sharing. And turn on your camera, Tobias and David, when I know you're ready, and then we'll do the transition over there. So again, we are recording the session. Again, you can continue to ask us questions as we go, both in the chat and publicly. I do see a chat question asking to put the framework in the chat. We will work on trying to get that shared with you by the time the session ends today. We'll get you a share up on a Google Drive for that for you. And so checking to see here, David and Tobias, are you guys ready to go? A little early here.
All good here.
All righty. So I'd like to introduce Tobias Yergin, our new SVP of product, who joined us at the beginning of this year, and Dave Weinstein, who many of you know as our CTO, who's been here for a lot of years, and they got some great product innovation futures, some near, some far, to show you today. And with that, I will mute and hand it over to you guys.
Thanks, Brian. So Brian gave a nice introduction there in terms of looking at what we are doing here in the short term. This is a way that many times we present our capabilities to customers when we go out and talk about apps you build, and then the apps that are maybe in use for you in your enterprise within your environment. And we've really focused on developing a more comprehensive solution that is tightly integrated, that addresses a couple different use cases in our platform. One of them is the baseline product that we have now, and that's really built around monitoring and triaging apps that are in those public app stores that are in use within your environment, giving a notification that, hey, something potentially is wrong here. We need to go take a look at this thing and maybe even go contact the vendor about potential problems that are surfacing up in that application. And then the second SKU or second offering that we have within that platform product that we have now in the marketplace is really around two things. Alan talked a lot about the automation aspects of it, where we are integrated into the CI/CD process with vulnerability management systems, ticketing systems, build systems, and the like. But in addition to that, capabilities of actually just having one of our analysts, which is kind of over there in the services component of our offering, around getting them to go write a script and having that script run through a specific workflow and basically assessing what's happening within the application on that script. And that's a deeper level of coverage that we can get through those scripts, which leads me kind of into the NowSecure Workstation product, which is even deeper coverage, right? And that's, kind of manual pen test stuff that we offer. What's really cool, and what we'll show you in the next couple slides, is the fact that we've actually been working very, very hard over the past 6 to 7 months to unify them, to integrate them, to have a consistent look and feel across them, and to do a little bit of modernization on an already great product suite that we feel like we've got. And then we have the pen testing services using our Workstation product. And as Alan talked a lot about, the training and support that we currently offer. And we view ourselves as that trusted advisor, where we can come in and not only help you do a manual pen test as an example, but really talk to you about risk, really talk to you about where things are headed from a technology perspective, from a strategy perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a market development perspective. And so this is kind of the way that we look at the world. It's the way that we've actually developed our product. And it's really, I think, tries to capture a lot of the use cases that we see foremost in the marketplace and really solving problems for you as our customer base that are real, that are tangible, and that are making a difference for you. And so you'll see a lot of the NowSecure core down here. These are some of the different kinds of testing that you'll run into on a really regular basis with DAST, SAST, IAST. We're spending a little bit of time, as some of you know, I spent a little bit of time with a lot of the folks on the call here talking about kind of next generation stuff. We're really excited about the roadmap. And we're going to have obviously some IAST capabilities now in the product, but even more so in 2021, where we're looking at passive IAST and some really cool stuff around integration with IDEs, and then also directly into our platform. So a lot of really cool stuff coming here. Alan talked significantly about standards-based rules and standards-based compliance and engines and tools that we're developing and having more and better and richer coverage across them. You'll see that happening in 2020 and 2021. It's going to be lights out for us. We're really going to be focused heavily in this area. We feel that's the best way to move the industry forward and offer the most value for you. And so I think that's kind of the general summary of the way that we're looking at the world. Apps you build, and then apps absolutely that are in use in your environment. And then we've got all of those use cases covered through a combined suite of products. Next slide. So this is some of the new look and feel that you'll see. The NowSecure platform is really undergoing a transition to make it a little bit more modern. Obviously, a very good product in its own right, but this is just a little bit more intuitive. We've curated some of the workflow. We've optimized some of the workflow. We've made it more simple to follow. It's easier to navigate. And we've really did a big upgrade in terms of the look and the feel. We've added a little bit more of a modern style to it. The aesthetic is a little bit easier on the eye. And we're really focused on continuing that. And what you'll see is that show up in the new workstation UI, which we will be launching an alpha version of that on a couple of our products here, or for a couple of our customers, actually, in towards the end of the year. And we'll have a full GA of that product in Q1. Super excited about that as well. It's really a wizard-based UI that brings you through a step-by-step process in terms of how to go do a manual pen test, how to use our workstation product as well there. What's really cool there is that we also have a single findings database as part of the unification. So what you'll see is that you'll be able to access that findings database directly from Workstation if you're a Workstation customer. And if you're just an exclusively a platform customer, you'll still be able to access Workstation findings within that unified database. So really excited not only about the look and the feel, which is getting a little bit of a modern touch, a little bit of polish, but fundamentally, we're really going to open up some new capabilities that we think are going to add tremendous value for our customers. One little other quick note there, we'll actually make it searchable, we'll make it editable, we'll make it customizable. So all the findings that are in the database will, I think, have a lot more value to our customers based on the ability to do those search functions and edit functions. And then for the findings evolutions, this is really a great story for us because we spent so much time here in 2020 on developing new findings. A lot of our customers have said, hey, wait a minute, you've actually put too many findings out too soon. I never thought I'd hear that, but we have many times. We actually have over 200 findings now. We've developed 50 new findings. We're on pace for at least that many next year, probably more. And we've developed new tooling as well, which a lot of the folks here on the call have heard from. Our new API sec testing tool called Beat, our backend application testing tool, which is actually both passive and active, that we released late last year. We're going to be doing another version of that, which David's going to talk about in the next demo. And then the quality of the findings, because there are folks out in the industry that say, oh, we've got 6,000 findings. Well, that's great. What are the quality of those findings? What's actually in those findings? Is it just a sentence? Is it 2 lines? because that's really not adding a lot of value. And then how many false positives, how many false negatives, right? So it's the quality of the findings, not only from the perspective of those false negatives and false positives, but it's also about the quality of everything that's gone into it in terms of remediation, in terms of regulatory links, in terms of labels, in terms of the ability for you to search on them. And then the quality, what do you do with it? Is it readable? Can I take action against it, right? So you're going to see that we spent a ton of time here. We've got a lot of really exciting stuff happening. And we should probably go on to the next slide because I'm going to run out of time. So let's keep going. First things first, this is kind of a new updated version of the management page. And this is where you can see we've done some stuff in terms of the left-hand side where you now have workstation on the nav bar. So this is the first time that you'll see some of these new integration and unification efforts come to the surface of the product. And then this is also really around just rethinking how an admin would come in here and what they would want to see and how we would present the information and what actions might be taken. And so we've really thought about that. Hopefully this makes a little bit more sense now. Again, a lot of this information is already in the product. The product is an incredibly well-built product. It's just rethinking about how we actually detail that information, looking at the information architecture, looking at the visual design, looking at the information design, and making sure that it's just presentable kind of in that Tuftian sense where it makes sense and people can have a true understanding of what that product is trying to deliver. And this product we think is making great strides in this area. So let's go to the next slide. So here's more about Workstation. A lot of our Workstation customers are, in that financial industry. They are in our government or CI kind of community, maybe some healthcare folks online as well, and they're air-gapped. And they're basically saying, hey, listen, we love kind of the message that you're sending with Workstation. It's available in the cloud. You've got the capability of doing remote access. We've got rigs that we can now dedicate. Awesome, amazing, cool stuff that Alan talked about with our infrastructure upgrades. But wait a minute, I'm air-gapped. I just need you to give me my kit, and I need you to take care of me while maybe updating the UI and some new capabilities like operating system support as an example. And so what we've done is we've really from the onset, as we've migrated and unified Workstation into platform, from day one, we basically said, hey, listen, we're really focused on maintaining the capability of Workstation as a standalone unit while making sure that we continually update it, and it will be in parallel to all of the new capabilities, functionality that you get in Workstation that's in the cloud now. And so we really think that we've brought the power and extensibility of that interactive testing to not only the cloud, but maintained it in its kind of air-gap state, where you're really focused on kind of behind the firewall, traditional analysts going into a very secure environment, but making the polish and the UI and the wizard-driven capabilities and all the new stuff that we've done, including operating system support, new tooling as another example, still in that kit, still available for you, always, the kind of the way that you've consumed that product. So a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of development, a lot of time, effort went into making sure that we supported both use cases and that our customers who are used to using it in the traditional model are very happy with the way that we've migrated that product into platform. Next slide. So this is where we get actually into that Workstation tab. As I mentioned here, this is kind of the first moment when you actually FTU, first time use. When you click on that Workstation tab to the left-hand side here, you get Test an App with Workstation. We've actually done all of the storyboarding, all of the prototyping. We're in full development now. The new stack uses the same components, so you're going to get a lot of nice benefits there from the look, the feel, the consistency of the UI, some performance inputs as well, improvements as well. And this is kind of the way that we've developed the product, is by working with our partners, looking at how analysts use the product and actually optimizing that workflow. And so if anyone here is interested in taking a look at that, getting an early prototype, a demo of that, we're happy to go do that. We're really, really excited about it because I think that it's bringing what is the industry's best product into the 21st century with a really modern UI that's super efficient. And so this is kind of the first look that we're previewing here for you as our most select customers in Connect 2020, creating a new project, opening a new project, having those projects potentially even link back, which we've already done from the development side, back into platform, sharing those artifacts, sharing those findings, making them searchable. So this is a big step in the direction that we're headed. And we think that, as Alan said, it even has some applications outside of direct mobile and into IoT, which we're also excited about and seeing more and more customers look at. Next slide. So yeah, it's about flexibility, right? This new platform that we have is about supporting multiple use cases. And it's really around making sure that the different levels of risk are effectively managed through those use cases and through our products. I talked a little bit about our baseline product and platform as an example, where you're doing monitoring and triaging of apps that are actually out in the marketplace, but in use within your environment. Well, those might be not high risk. Those are probably a little bit lower in terms of their risk. And so we've really built a bespoke product to make sure that that level of risk for those particular applications is already taken care of. And then if you want a little bit more coverage, if you want to dig a little bit deeper into the application, we can go do that directly with our platform product. And then if you want to go deep dive and do a manual pen test, of course, all of that's available now in a single pane of glass. And then for the analyst driven, which is cool, we kind of have two different versions of it. And I've talked a little bit about it, but more specifically, this is around the manual pen test and the single pane of glass for Workstation, but it's also around potentially looking at our advanced SKU, where it's an analyst driven workflow for those critical workflows within an application. Let's say you're a financial company and you want to make sure that if somebody's transacting and entering credit card information, we can actually go write a script and test against that script. So it's really whatever you want, however you want it. We've built it in a way that's flexible, that's modular, and that really addresses, I think, a multitude of use cases across quite a few different industry segments. And so for us, that's really where we're focused, that analysis engine that we talk about all the time. We've got a set of tools now that we've had in development for a very long time, both static and dynamic, that are across all of our products, offering a really integrated suite and an integrated database, and that is searchable across all of our products. So you can do it tethered, you can do it in the cloud, you can do it via risk, you can do it across different use cases, and you can do it on demand, you can do it continuous, you can do it integrated. It's really kind of built in a way that is trying to address all of the needs for all of our customers. So next slide. I want to make sure I give David enough time here. So yeah, the other thing that we're really focused on is making sure that not only do we meet the needs of our security analysts, of course, that was kind of the bread and butter of this company for so many years, but more and more, as Alan talked about, how does security get integrated into the DevOps environment? And we've got a couple different ways, right? And so if you want to go look at one of our reports, which we're going to show you here in a couple minutes, it's about the language, right? It's about the layout. It's about the resolution of problems when they arise. It's about putting titles that make sense to developers into our reports. When you open up an assessment and you're a developer, is it something that you're going to be able to understand and take action against? Is the description right? All of those things are really something that we're really focused on in 2020. Surprise notice here. We actually are going to be doing a complete overhaul of the language, the title, the labels, everything that you're used to seeing in our findings for our December release. And so we really feel good about not only the quality and the aggregate number of the findings, but now we're going to be actually addressing it in a way that it's going to make it much more developer friendly. And so one of the things that we looked at is, hey, if you want to do that automated use case with our advanced product in our platform, one of the things you have to do is you have to have great integrations, right? It's got to be seamless, and it's got to be intuitive, and it's got to be easy. And so we're in the process of completely redesigning the entire workflow around integrations in general, and then looking at enhancements for our existing integrations, like ADO boards as an example, where we've got bidirectional ticketing capabilities. new capabilities with a GitLab integration, enhancements to Jira, enhancements to Jenkins, right? So enhancements to Circle CI and ThreadFix and some of those other vulnerability management systems, right? So this is really the focus for us in the last quarter of this year and early into next year. When you actually talk about that automated use case, it's really around integration and integration specifically into the tools that developers use. And so that's kind of the first way. I've already talked a little bit about the second way. When you get a ticket showing up directly into Jira, that could potentially be really cool. What if it was in the language of a developer? So it shows up as a P1 or a P2 or a P0. And then you've got all of the descriptions that are necessary in there and then links to remediation capabilities. So you can go to the report as a developer now and you can understand it because we've redesigned the entire format and we've got some really cool language in there that makes it much easier for them to understand. And in addition to that, we've done a whole bunch of work around the integration piece, which makes it significantly easier. The devs basically just using the tools that they use every day, and the ticketing and all of the security capabilities and the remediation possibilities are showing up there directly in the tools that they use. So a lot of focus around integrations. I'm going to show you some dev findings in detail in the next slide. And then, one of the things that, of course, application folks and developers need is make sure that their app gets located and put on the app store. So we're looking at app store blockers. Thanks, Reed. David, we're actually going to make sure that the App Store blockers are part of the findings so that if you're a developer and you want that app up on the App Store, we're going to identify those things right up front for you. And you'll see that in a following slide. Next slide. So yeah, this is kind of the integrations. Talked a little bit about this already within the CI/CD systems, making sure that we've got the open integration from the API perspective as well. So not only some of the RESTful APIs, but in large measure, we've put a huge amount of effort into rationalizing our APIs and really focusing on GraphQL, making sure that the documentation is improved on a regular basis, and then making sure that you guys have access to it. Ticketing systems, we talked about that. Vuln management systems, we already talked about that. So let's keep moving here. This is going to be broken up, I think, into 3 slides, if memory serves correct. This is the new way of taking a look at, and this is an early mock, by the way, so we're really open to the input of our customers here. This is kind of the idea that we've been bouncing around in design as well as product. We have a findings team that's reviewed this as well. And this is just, as I said, an early mock. So you're on the findings summary. We're taking a look at a specific report. What's cool now is that you've got the time, you've got the date, it's time stamped, you've got the specific version. And within this assessment, you're looking at 3 failed findings and 3 needs review. 38 have already passed. And on those needs review, which is, kind of the ones that you want to take a closer look at, obviously, you would click on this little triangle here where you have needs review, and it's basically going to expand. You have a reference to it in that what we call the little chiclet up there, or expandable. So you can reference the fact that you're looking at the JavaScript interface check. That's the finding that actually is going to need or require further investigation. You click on the little arrow and boom, you get the expandable. There'll be a section there, which is the Google Play Store blockers. That's actually the first finding. So that would relate directly to the first chiclet or first expandable. And then what we've done here, and that's in the little plus over here to the right-hand side. If you clicked the plus, boom, you would get a huge amount of data on that as well. What we've done is we've said, hey, listen, we're going to go and take a closer look at this JavaScript interface check. And that Java interface check, it shows up here with a CVSS score, as well as a couple of the labels, and then all of the findings context. And what this is, when you click on that plus, it's always going to have the findings context, because this is really kind of the heart of the matter. This is the information that really is going to be relevant for the security analyst and the developer. So next slide. We're kind of making our way down here. As I said, we hit that little X, it turns into a plus and it expands down. So this is the next section of the report. If you were scrolling down the report, this is what you would see. The ability to potentially reproduce it, what the business impact is, and then the remediation resources. So how would you go fix this if you were a developer? Next slide. And what we're doing now is we're taking a look at even including code samples, right? So it's one thing to actually give you an overview of the process by which you would potentially remediate the issue, but what if we actually gave you the code samples as well as a place to actually go start, some additional guidance with regards to the ability to link into directly Google and iOS capabilities where you're going to get additional information, and then all of the regulatory stuff that we normally provide for you here down in the bottom. Next slide. And with that, I believe, David, that I will turn things over to you. Did I give you enough time? Sorry for talking so much.
It's great, Tobias. Thank you so much. And thanks to all our customers for this opportunity to share some of the NowSecure research innovations. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about API security testing and how we're enabling our teams to assess the full mobile app and the dependent API backend components. This is something that we heard loud and clear from many of our customers. And we know that the attack surface of applications today includes both the mobile application and the backend. So we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to be putting into the product over time, what's already there, some of our standards-based testing, and if we have time for it, a quick preview of some of the tooling, the BEAT tool, which is called a backend API testing tool. So just some guiding principles first before we dive in. Some of the things that we've been thinking a lot about are addressing the existing standards. So Alan mentioned already that we have a huge focus on addressing known standards-based testing approaches. So whether that's the way we do the testing or the findings that we produce or the remediation instructions, we want to be standards oriented. We want to also surface third-party risks. Lots of applications are using lots and lots of dependencies. Those dependencies incur different potential attack surface of their own, or they might introduce different backend APIs that you didn't expect. And we'd like to start to surface that information more clearly to our customers. As part of our guiding principles as well, we want to make sure that we're addressing both the REST, sort of the traditional APIs, as well as the newer technology that's gaining adoption. So things like GraphQL, serverless, and Zero Trust are very interesting to us. And we see our customers adopting various different new technologies to address the requirements that the developers have. So finally, we also don't want to forget about our human in the loop. So a lot of what NowSecure has been built has been based on our individual pen testers, security researchers, looking at things manually and ultimately automating those things. And ultimately, the human is the most powerful component of this process. We want to make sure that humans are paying attention to the most important items and providing input as part of the process where it's absolutely required and where we think we'll have the most bang for our buck, and ultimately using our time more effectively. So those are some of the guiding principles around our API sec testing. Next up, you might have already noticed this, but we've started to expose some of our findings around backend API testing already. So in the product today, we have things related to excessive data exposure, misconfiguration of API resources, just the general discovery of what APIs are being used. What you can expect is that this will increase over time. We are in the process of fully integrating the BEAT tool into the platform. It's already been integrated into Workstation. And so some of those components and outputs are actually already available to our customers that are using Workstation. We expect that the new findings will be very exciting for our customers, and we expect that that will begin to address the challenges around APIs. As I mentioned, we have a huge focus on standards-based testing. The BEAT tool in particular has essentially two modes of operation. There's a passive testing mode. So essentially our customers using platform will just for free, essentially, within the product, no additional work required, begin to see findings as part of our testing process. So what the passive means, what the passive component here means is that we're essentially riding on top of our existing testing process of the application, both the UI automation and the interaction with the application itself while it's running on our rigs, and essentially adding additional metadata or looking at that additional metadata around what we're seeing between the communication of the device and the server. And that's what we mean by passive testing. It's not that there aren't any actual requests being made to the server. It's just that we're riding on those existing technologies in the process and workflow, critical workflow automation to essentially expose some of these findings. However, in order to fully address the challenges around API security testing and to fully address the API top 10, we do need some additional capabilities where we're going to actually use active testing, or what might be in some cases, depending on the spectrum of testing, destructive API testing. And so what this means is that we're actually going to generate new test cases that we did not see the application actually use, and actually begin to expose those new findings as we start to probe and prod the actual backend components. This is something that will obviously require some degree of opt-in, and we will work closely with our customers in terms of a workflow that will help them define the scope of those API security tests that we perform on those backend components with Beat. So as you can see here quickly, right around 50% of the testing that we'd be doing would be covered by the existing passive testing capabilities that will be appearing in the product. And the other 50% will be covered by the active testing. That's not to say that we won't be doing things outside of API Top 10. This is just certainly a major focus for us, and we will continue to add additional findings along these lines. So quickly around the how we're doing this, as many of you know, we do dynamic analysis on mobile applications. And the way that works is essentially we instrument the mobile application, we automate the interaction with that application, we observe different components of how it's running, how it's communicating with the backend. We collect lots and lots of artifacts, similar to the artifacts our customers would see in Workstation. And then ultimately, we synthesize all that useful information into a report. So in this picture here, we have a couple of new things to this diagram, if you've seen it before, and that is the discovery process, as well as the probing process. So in the discovery process, we're actually passively looking at what we've already seen from the application context talking to the server. And then with the active testing, as I mentioned before, that's going to be an opt-in process, and those additional data points will be collected into the same report that you see today. So you'll start to see additional API security specific findings in the reporting, and those will likely be classified by whether they were found via passive or active testing. Additionally, there is this new workflow that I'd like everybody to sort of think about. Many times our applications are introducing new third-party components into those apps. So we're frequently adding, whether it's monetization library, social media components, whether it's using Firebase, a Crashlytics component. Things are happening so quickly and at such a pace that, and being integrated so quickly, essentially there's no way to really keep track of all those components and all those dependencies and really what they're talking to and how they're communicating with the backend. So what we'd like to begin to address for our customers is to provide a workflow that essentially allows you to designate API components, API activity that is expected and things that are not expected. And using that, we can begin to actually essentially guide our customers towards deciding whether they want to continue using a third-party component, which is something that we'll talk about later, third-party API testing, perhaps in a later session with Tobias, not today. But essentially what we want to do is help manage those third-party risks. So you can see how this all kind of works together with our existing mobile API, mobile testing, mobile application testing, and how we're really just adding the back-end perspective to everything that we do. So with that, I'd like to share just a quick demo of Beat in action. So just give me 1 second here. So hopefully everybody can see this. Essentially what I have on my screen right now is a command line tool. This is actually something that's already in Workstation. Obviously in platform, this is something that would be fully automated for our customers, and there would be additional workflows to add in configuration around when we're doing active testing. So this is a simple example where I have a local test server, that's the screen on the bottom left. I have a client, that's the screen on the bottom right. And then I have the Beat tool, which is a command line tool at the moment in this demo. And essentially it runs in three different modes. The first mode is as a proxy. It runs in line with our application security testing. So while the application is talking to the backend, we essentially add additional layer of proxying that is going to watch the traffic and inject components as needed. Or in the passive mode, it'll just completely observe that traffic as needed. So that's passively testing the backend. From here, essentially what I'll do is just enable the demo, and what you'll see is essentially the backend was enabled, the test server on the bottom left, the test client on the bottom right, and Beat is doing its thing in that proxy mode. And we see lots of activities going, basically scrolling down the screen. What you'll see in the demo is I'll open it up a little bit wider on the bottom. You'll see that the requests actually happening from the test client to the server. That's the bottom, those are the post requests. So essentially the client is sending some requests, but Beat itself is actually adding additional requests to this flow. And what's actually happening, and folks might notice this, is that there's some errors. There's actually a Unicode to code error. And if you saw things scroll by really quickly, there were some things around actually the Python server crashing as well as SQL injection. That's actually our B tool adding new test cases to the flow so that we can actually test the security of that backend. And in reality, this test server is crashing, which is very interesting, right? Hopefully our production servers don't crash as a result of different types of requests, but this is something that you could definitely enable in a dev or test environment to start to tease out what are some of the SQL injection vulnerabilities or command or IDOR type vulnerabilities. These are very interesting to us and something we want to address for our customers using both our passive and active testing. So I'll let this video go just a little bit longer. I want to show you just quickly some of the results. Towards the end of this video, basically you can start to see that we have some JSON data. You can see that we actually indicate where within the actual data that we were observing we found everything. So in this case, we might see it in the cookies, we might see it in some of the requests and the responses, and we'll be very detailed with where that information is coming from, as well as detailing what the issue is. And of course, our users won't have to worry about looking at this JSON raw data, although we love it when customers do, when they use our APIs to actually build their own tests or findings. However, these will be obviously beginning to be exposed in the product as findings. And these will be, as you can see here, tagged with OAuth Security Top 10. So with that, that's a quick intro to our Beat tool and what we've been doing on the research team and across the product team with API security testing. Thank you very much for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, David, so much. So I want to remind folks that we are taking questions as a follow-up. So if you have questions, you can use the Q&A. We're going to go ahead and transition to the panel now, but David and Tobias are happy to answer questions in the background as we're going through. So if you have questions around product, innovation, any of the tools you saw, you can check that out in the background. I'm going to transition us now to our great customer panel. And give me 1 second here to go through and adjust my screen. So our customer panel today is a fantastic group. I'm just going to show you their names and titles real quick, and then we're going to go into some intros. So from Standard Chartered Bank, we have Sachi and Himanshu, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves in a moment. And then from BitSight, we have Benson joining us as well. So we're going to get to see different kinds of customers and partners working with our technology in the marketplace. And so with that, I'm going to stop share. That way everybody can see the faces of all the panelists here. Move into my gallery mode. And so thanks everybody for turning on your screens. I'm going to start by asking each of you to introduce yourself. Take about a minute. Tell us about yourself and your company. So Sachi, would you like to go first, please? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, very good afternoon, everybody. This is Sachi Javli. I lead the application security as a head in Standard Chartered Bank in the Asia Pacific region. I take care of the web, mobile, and the other applications in the bank. And today, very happy to be part of this and look at interacting and learning from here. Thanks.
And Himanshu, welcome as well. Please introduce yourself.
I am Himanshu Mehta. I am also part of Standard Chartered Bank, and I am looking after mobile security and the DevSecOps pipeline within the bank. And looking forward for this connect and meeting with NowSecure. Thank you, Brian.
And finally, last but not least, Benson, would you like to introduce yourself and a little bit about your company?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Benson George. I'm a senior product manager with BitSight. BitSight is headquartered in Boston. I'm based out of the Raleigh office. For those of you that don't know, BitSight is the company that created cybersecurity ratings about 8 years ago. So think of it like a TransUnion or Equifax rating, but for an organization's cybersecurity performance. We're Series D funded. We've got about 3,000 enterprise customers. We've got some of the largest cyber insurers, and about 20% of all countries in the world use BitSight to monitor their critical infrastructure. A little bit about our business. We originally focused on third-party risk or vendor risk management. This really took off for us with the Target breach in 2014, which of course was came about because of a vulnerability from an HVAC vendor, I believe. We've got about 20 plus vectors that focus on different areas of risk. Mobile AppSec is one of those, and one I would say that's certainly increasing in terms of prominence for us. I tend to focus on the first party use case, which is one that we found has been really getting a fair bit of traction. And so by first party, I mean that customers are wanting to understand their own rating and are reducing their own cybersecurity risk. Outside of work, I'm a dad of a 5-year-old and 2-year-old twins, and so I'm just in constant fear that one of them will just walk through this door.
There you go. So thank you all for joining us. First question's for Sachi. So, SCB is a large global bank. You're very dependent on technology. So tell us a little bit about SCB's mobile app strategy. How does mobile drive the business, and how have you evolved your mobile security program to support the mobile business growth at SCB? Sachi?
Yeah, thanks. I think as we move on, right, the entire banking itself is moving on to more into a digital bank, or what you call the virtual banking, right? And also because of this, the mobile plays a major role in this whole equation. And also we have different divisions in the bank, like the retail banking, the corporate banking, and the whole thing. And definitely the mobile applications play a very important role as we transition from the traditional traditional core banking platform onto the web banking and onto the mobile banking. And speaking on that, we have a large number of mobile application, and also we spread across. We operate in more than 60 to 70 countries. Therefore, each country has its own application because of the legality and also the type of slightly customization of the apps. Therefore, large number of apps exist. And also we have a lot of internal apps also we use for doing the business, which are more hosted internally for doing the business. Coming back on the strategy, definitely there are two things happening. One is definitely the mobile application development is happening, and there is a lot of awareness has been created, and also we need to secure them as we develop the application. Also, when we do a lot of releases and also putting the deployment, this is where one of the gaps were there earlier. We were depending upon the external vendors or some third party to do the assessment of this application. Over the last 1.5 years, I think we took this journey to build this capability in-house, and we are scouting for the partner. And I think NowSecure was one of the shortlisted by us, doing some sort of POC and looking at the thing. Now NowSecure is in the platform what we are using to really do the mobile application assessments, and also helping the bank to drive this very aggressively, and also so that we can go to the market very quickly. And we are also confident that what the type of vulnerability we found and the things like that, on the turnaround time is good. Yeah, that's it from my side, Brian. I think I'll move on to the next question, and maybe we'll add when we speak. Thanks.
Absolutely. So Himanshu, as part of SCB, talk about, you're in a DevOps role and a security role, hybrid. How do dev and security work together at SCB? How have you created the culture and fostered through tools and process a strong working relationship across the two organizations?
Sure, David. So sure, Brian. So I think I'm just continue with what Sachi just talked about, that we are a global organization, and which is spread across multi-regions. And one of the challenging factor with such an organization is, we have development teams, which spread across different geographies, different developers, different mindset, different way of coding things. Now, the challenge with such kind of a big organization, and such a, heterogeneous environment is, that you should always look out for a product which is very close to the development team, which they can use as a self-service, which they can automatically utilize within their build pipeline, and they just don't want to, we just want to have that reduction in friction between the development teams and the security. So that's where my role comes into picture, by ensuring that whenever we are going for a selection of any product, this product fits within our pipeline. It can provide the right set of ammunitions and arms to the development team, to progress and do their work without disturbing their, flow, or without disturbing their, functionality development. So that's where I think NowSecure comes very handy with us. It's unique feature of, of spanning the binaries, not dependent on the source code, has actually revolutionized the way we are developing and building our applications, or specifically the mobile applications. And it plays a crucial role in such, getting us right with the speed with which the development teams are developing the application. So as a DevSecOps lead, my overall goal always remains, anytime we have a tool, which can best fit within this pipeline, we can create a processes around it so that it is easier to consume. And finally, developers can easily read those reports, and easily, go and back and fix those vulnerabilities. So that's how, we try to, make sure that our security also runs with equal speed as we are developing our applications.
Excellent. Thanks for the feedback. I think, it's always one part culture, one part enablement, one part ease of use for all the audience, right? And I'm sure that we're doing integrations already, and Tobias's conversation earlier about more integrations can only help and benefit, along with the developer-oriented remediations and findings. So I'm going to steer over to Benson. So, as you're doing your security scoring and ratings, your FICO score, as it were, for security and cyber risk, how is mobile fitting into your business and your client's business? We started a partnership a while ago, and it seems like mobile's clearly growing for us and for you. Maybe you can share about how the mobile piece of your business and risk to your customers is growing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is growing. That's for sure. I would say for our customers and for us, just even over the last 2 years or so, I think Alan alluded to this in the intro, that there was already a movement to mobile. But really with COVID, we have just seen it's been an incredible accelerant. There's such a focus to drive end users toward mobile applications that our customers are asking for us to do more. And by that, they want us to provide better, deeper visibility into risk that's originating from mobile applications. And so on our side, we are investing heavily towards that. We are upgrading the capabilities, as you know, that we have around mobile application security. And of course, we're leveraging our partnership with NowSecure to be able to deliver on these asks. We're seeing actually this on the customer side too. There's actual tangible movements that we're seeing in the way that organizations organize, structure their teams, manage resources, just to make sure that they're better able to support mobile AppSec.
Excellent. The risk profile clearly has grown. I think the importance of mobile. I was on a digital transformation panel. I think it was about June. And a number of the organizations were participating in that workshop. Mostly chief digital officers were talking about how their 3 to 5 year digital transformation plan was now occurring in 3 months, and they had to figure out how to survive that, right? And so clearly the spike in mobile data has gone along with that. So next question for Sachi. So how do you leverage NowSecure at SCB, and what value have you experienced? I know we worked with you to onboard a lot of applications very quickly in your organization as part of the process.
Yeah, I think this is one of the very important steps where we onboarded NowSecure platform. And also looking at that, we had done a large number of application assessments, not only onboarding them and also turning around with different type of scans, what we have the options within the NowSecure. We're able to do the zero touch, the authenticated scan and other thing. Really, we see a lot of value in this. And also we have not only did an independent analysis, we brought our development team along also, where we engaged the NowSecure team to go through some of these vulnerabilities and explain to them also. Okay, and I think as we've seen, I think this is a first year journey for us with NowSecure. I see we've done a good amount of the application onboarding and assessment. I'm very confident. I think we'll continue this journey. But also what I want to do is I want to maybe achieve some more automation in this maybe in the next year, so that it will be more self-service. And also what we have not done this year maybe is the continuous deployment and delivery, basically of that type of a complete utilizing the NowSecure to the maximum extent where we can turn around even a small releases and maybe a weekly type of a release, how we want to do that. Maybe we want to do that this year.
Excellent. So, so that's how SCB uses NowSecure. It'd be interesting, Benson, to have you share how does BitSight leverage NowSecure, and what value have you experienced yourself and with your clients?
Sure, absolutely. So, from what we do, we provide a big picture visibility into the risk that's originating from mobile app security. We rate, I think, something in the magnitude of 500,000 organizations, and while I would say that our customer base does skew a bit larger, we do have also all sizes, and in addition to that, all degrees of maturation in terms of managing mobile app risk. And just over the past few years working with NowSecure, we've been able to increase our coverage by some factor of 30 or so. Right now, I think we're monitoring some 400,000 apps a year. It could actually be bigger than that. And I can say just, from my perspective as a product guy, it really helps that NowSecure is able to allow us to support a broad base of clients. And so, imagine smaller clients that have less dedicated resources, less mature orgs, they can manage risk. And then there's larger firms, as Sachi was alluding to, the global footprints, the global stores, to really be able to see it across the global organization. That's a critical component of it. And altogether, I just think that, working with NowSecure, it's just tremendous value, and it's increasing value, I should add, right? That we're really able to provide for our customers.
Well, I think thank you for that feedback. I think, one of the things that maybe some of the folks on the phone may or may not be aware of is that we do provide continuous analysis of all the apps in the Apple App Store and Google Play, right? And so while you may be leveraging NowSecure to test the apps that you build, we also have that analysis for the apps you can use. So whether you're looking at third-party supply chain risk, or an organization like Benson's that's looking at aggregate risk across all possible perimeter and security stack endpoints, right? That can be a great data source for you as well, in addition to the apps you build, testing you do. So feel free to reach out to us to learn more about that. When we were preparing, we talked a bit about metrics. So Himanshu, when you think about metrics in your pipelines, what kind of metrics do you focus on, and how do metrics drive and impart your business?
I think metrics forms a very important part of our organization in terms of producing what we have scanned, how much we have remediated, what is our risk buy down, and other items like that. Obviously, historical data is something to look forward and also drive future remediation. So usually we use this metrics and measurements. I think first metrics that we would like to assess is to have a discovery, or have an inventory. How much is my capability to scan, or how much NowSecure I can license NowSecure to help scan my application. The second type of matrix that probably we look down as what is the risk behind my application? What risk each application possesses. We try to quantify and give a quantitative value to it. Finally, we try to run down how I'm gonna use this, the amount of data which NowSecure is providing me in terms of vulnerability, the application, the risk score, in driving the remediation within our organization. So that's the combination of scanning, assessing, and finally the remediation, which we make the maximum use of matrix. We have, we are a highly regulated bank, so we have a matrix which need to be produced for regulatory purpose. There are matrix measurements which need to be, produced for other root cause analysis and other incident activities. So this forms a major chunk of core that we do on day-to-day basis. And I think the NowSecure rich API set is able to provide us good amount of value to this, so that we can leverage and do a better forecasting and also drive better remediation within the organization.
So I want to remind folks that they can ask questions using the Q&A chat. We do have a question that came in. So what new initiatives or improvements would you like to see NowSecure address in 2021? Maybe Sachi, do you want to go first on where you'd like to see, where your new initiatives are and what you think NowSecure could improve or help you address?
See, biggest thing for me is more automation I want to achieve in this. Okay, definitely I want to see how we can do that because of the faster turnaround of the application assessment. What I'm looking for, that is one thing. Another thing is some of the applications. I think due to the nature of those applications, we are not able to port that onto the NowSecure platform. I want to see what other options we have so that I can leverage NowSecure platform more effectively. And other one thing is how can I make sure that the vulnerability what I found is really is always on the up to date. Means what has been found recently, that rule engine is really updated by NowSecure. How can I get that type of visibility?
Okay. No invisible.
To my product so that I get more confidence and more trust onto that. I think today I don't have that. Definitely that is required because I get these questions from my auditors and my basically the regulators, because that visibility and that type of a product insight, if that can be given or that can be showcased, I think that will really not only help us, it will actually help any bank or any financial organization actually. Okay, so that NowSecure actually can be more trusted, and also it can be seen as a more of a trusted partner and with a more data actually showcasing that.
Yeah, we do have data initiatives. That's really good feedback. I'm glad we have the product and heads of product and research on to hear that as well. I'm going to steer to you, Benson. So when you think about your business, same question, what new initiatives do you have in the new year, and what kind of improvements would you like to see from NowSecure to help support those?
Again, for us, we are investing heavily in mobile application security. It's shocking. It would be shocking to this audience because everybody here is, well versed in the risks that originate from mobile apps. But when we look across our data set of, as I mentioned, like 500,000 or so companies, people are surprisingly bad at mobile apps. Really shockingly bad at mobile applications, and so the thing that I get to see is actually the dollar impact of these bad security practices. Companies with security, company security posture is increasingly becoming the differentiator in why firms get new business and some others don't. And so as the importance of mobile continues to increase, I would really I'm just grateful that we have this partnership where you NowSecure are leading in this space.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that feedback. So I think we have one last question here. So when we think about all the journey that all of you have had in terms of working in mobile, do you have a piece of one piece of mobile AppSec take home advice for folks on the call here? Like what's one thing you've learned in your mobile AppSec journey in the past year, either working with us or in general, that you wish you'd known, that you think is important for folks on the phone to take home and leverage as they think about their strategies? Maybe we'll start with Sachin and then I'll go around the horn on that. So.
Yeah, definitely. I want to speak about three things because as a large bank, right, we went through an RFP route. Okay, it is not an easy. So somebody told us we bought this, right? We had done a lot of due diligence. We went through that. What are the three important factors? It really helped us. I think it will also help you guys maybe to look at it. One is definitely the team behind this NowSecure is highly knowledgeable. Okay, I think they know what they're doing it, and it's not that, and they have a good insight into the whole this what you call this technology and also this application landscape and how the enterprises uses it and things like that. Really, I'm very, very convinced with that type of the leadership and also the whole product team and the SMEs they have in. Second thing is, as a product itself, we can see. I think I can see that because we also seen in the different other products thing. Definitely, this is a slightly mature product, and also it's improving. And we can see there are a lot of things they're putting into the thing. And the third thing is definitely the type of insight it drives. Finally, the end result, right? Because it's all good, but what are we finding? It is really valuable to me. Is it really something? It is helping me to take back to my organization and see what type of risk it's finding, what type of vulnerability, I can say, yeah, there's a quality of the output is there in this product. Therefore, I think these are the three things you can take away, and you can also do your homework and cross-check it. Definitely, I don't think you can always do a POC, proof of concept, and definitely that will actually convince you, and maybe we can take it from there. Thanks.
That's great, Sachi. Himanshu, would you like to round out the story from your experience? What's one great takeaway for folks to be aware of or think about?
I think being an advocate for DevSecOps or DevOps, I always suggest the tool which is closer to the development team, because we can't have n number of security researchers or security analysts being assigned to n number of developers. It's always good that the tool that you're selecting for security, specifically for mobile security, is something which developers can use it easily. It's not gonna make their life more miserable and tough, but instead, make their journey more easier. It can provide them the right set of contextual data and also actionable guidance, which they can follow the recommendations across. So that's going to be my say for this product, which matches with this unique quality of, allowing development teams to use and on the product, not just as a security product, but as a development product.
Excellent. Thanks you, Himanshu. And last but not least, Benson, what's your one key takeaway for our audience when they think about risk in mobile?
Yeah, I think that as the focus in mobile continues to grow, organizations, the ones that we've seen, there are ones that have done a better job of being planning for it, accounting for it. But the thing that I continuously see is that as the interest grows, so does the sort of draw towards other sort of malicious type of actors and such. And so I think that firms need to make sure that they have a handle on where the risk is emerging, where it's going, and then also make sure that there is a nimbleness to be able to account for risk as it emerges.
All righty. And so with that, we want to thank our great panel today. I think we learned a lot, right? So it's about looking at the right combination of technology and vendor. It's about really looking at an effective process for partnering across security and development or across security and the risk team, right? When you think about cybersecurity and risk from Benson's side of the house. And so I want to thank our panelists again very much for participating today. They may move into some of the birds of a feather sessions. You're certainly welcome to join us over there as well. And we want to thank them again for sharing the useful information and all the rest. And so with that, I'm going to move into closing. Thank you, Sachi. Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Benson.